Welcome to LNG, Local, National, and Global. Today I have Sylvester Stanley running for Bernalillo County Sheriff in my studio, and we're going to talk to you about your run for office. This is your first run, right? You haven't run before, right? For any other office?
Actually, I have. I ran for sheriff in 2002. I lost in the primary in a 5-person race. I came in second, but second.
You ran for sheriff?
I ran for sheriff in Bernalillo County in 2002.
Okay.
Got 10,236 votes, but it just wasn't good enough.
Well, that's a lot of votes, though.
Yeah.
Because some of this, like if you look at the state senate candidates, house districts, they're getting a couple of thousand votes. So 10,000 is a lot of constituency there, quite a bit, in my experience. Anyways.
Well, thank you.
You have an extensive law enforcement background. We'll go back into your military. I know you started out in the military, right? And then you just start from there, and we'll kind of give them an idea and where you grew up and how you went.
Well, I left high school, graduated high school in 1973. Young man, went in the military.
You were raised in a different city, right?
I was born and raised in Tennessee, Trenton, Tennessee.
Trenton, Tennessee.
And a small town, had been the son of a sharecropper, so decided it was time to do something different. Started a job at a brown shoe company. I was going to work at a shoe factory. It lasted a half a day. I just figured I wasn't made to spin shoes around this little spindle, so I joined the military. Went in service, 1974.
How old were you then?
17.
17.
17.
That's pretty young.
Yeah, young. So basically all my adult life I've been in law enforcement. Started my career in the military in Korea as a military policeman. Did some black market investigation while I was overseas. And so it became really interesting.
Did you see action there? Were
No.
you in Korea? No,
I didn't.
This is post-Korean War,
Post-Korean War, Vietnam era. A lot of guys were going to Nam. I went to Korea. And so
How did
spent
that
18
happen?
months.
Instead of sending you to Nam, they send you to Korea?
I volunteered to go to Korea.
Okay.
And they always tell you to stop volunteering, but I volunteered to go to Korea. It was a good experience. I spent 18 months there. 18 months, came back and got out of the military in Kansas, Junction City, went to work for the police department. The timing was right. They just happened to need a black officer to go undercover at the time, and I was getting out of the military. So it was funny because they asked me, when do you want to start to work? That was like on a Wednesday. I said, well, I get out of the Army on Friday. How about Saturday? I said, because if I leave Kansas, I'm not coming back. So I worked there 5 years. Worked my way up through patrol, juvenile, did some vice investigations and assistant investigation. Took a lateral transfer in 1982, but I should back up because in 1978, I met my wife in Kansas, who, believe it or not, was born and raised here in Albuquerque. In Mexico.
Okay. So that's even, now we are understanding the story and how you came to Albuquerque. Okay.
So in 1980, we were married. We had 2 beautiful sons. Now I have 7 grandchildren. And I retired from the sheriff department in 2002 as a captain. Worked my way up all the way through the ranks, worked in all the divisions. Took my first police chief job in 2002 out of the Sled Pueblo. Worked there for a year, then I went to Gallup at 3.5 years as a police chief, and a year as a state parks manager for the New Mexico parks. And now I work as a rehire officer, so I'm still active in law enforcement, but I'm assigned to Metro Court. Okay. And so, but that's where I'm at. That's just a short.
So this is in a time span of what now? How many years?
Over
when you
38
first came
years.
To
yeah, this is since 1982. But I've been in law enforcement all my adult life for over 38 years.
So when you first came in, you started out with Bernalillo County?
When I first came to Albuquerque, yes. I started out with Bernalillo County. I was a patrolman on the street. Made sergeant in 1985, 1989, made lieutenant, and went on up the ladder until I made captain.
It was quiet at that time. I remember 1982. I came here in 1980 myself. Okay. So it was pretty quiet. It wasn't a very big city, but we had our share of violence there and crime and things like that. But we have grown double since then. But roughly around, we're at almost 500 something now.
We have, and there were several years in there that it was quiet and not quiet. I spent half of my career in criminal investigations. And so
You have a criminal justice background, right?
Yes, I do.
You went to college
I
for
went to college for criminal justice. And I can remember starting on a Thanksgiving weekend one year with a double homicide, and then I had a double just before Christmas and a couple singles. I mean, it was just one of those years. I mean, but you're right.
Things were a lot
Traditionally,
more
things was a lot more calm and required, yes.
Because our population was at 200-something thousand, I think.
That's correct.
And then now we grew almost double that, or triple that, I think, as far as if you combined Rio Rancho and all this Bernalillo area, we're looking at almost
The metro area is
700,000.
yeah.
So a lot of that moves back and forth.
Yes, sir.
What do you think crime has gone up since then? Down, steady, same? Since you came here?
Oh, I think crime has moved around and the stats have moved up and down. I think property crime, has gone up more. I think there's much more property crime. You know, when I'm speaking of property crime, people having lawnmowers, bicycles, or anything of property stolen.
Correct.
So,
We're in the region, we're like the 47 as far as the property crime goes.
okay, see?
Violent crimes even worse
Yeah.
in some cases. But we're pretty close to Texas and Arizona as far as region goes. We're very similar. When you look at the stats, they look very similar to us. Even though they have a higher population, we're looking at pretty similar.
And you're right, but we're right in that western part. But you know, part of that is because Albuquerque is right on interstate. We have that crossroad,
Correct, 25.
Interstate 40 and
25.
Interstate 25. So we get a lot of traffic coming from south, Mexico coming up 25, and then we get people that's involved in gangs activity in LA, and they need to cool off, so they go back east, but they travel down Interstate 40, and they stop in Albuquerque.
Do you think there's ever since the recession, I think property crimes go up, but as far as the drug trafficking and all that, do you think it has gone up or down since the new administration came in? Have they tightened that border a little bit?
Well, I think that drug trafficking has gone up, and I think a lot of our people that use drugs have found a different drug of choice. Meth is a lot more popular now, and
It might have been because of that show that we produced here. I mean, sometimes these are effects that happen.
That's
from
right.
it.
But yes, property crimes, and that's why more people are using drugs, so they're stealing property in order to support their habit.
And it is kind of a poor state, so I think we see a lot of that.
Yes, sir.
And then some of the shows don't help either.
Well, that's true.
Let me take a short break.
Sure.
We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about it.
Great.
We'll take a short break and come back with Mr. Stanley, and we'll talk a little bit more about his background and stuff. Thank you.